So this is Module 12 of the case study for EDL 854. So Section 1, Briardale Elementary has 600 students. It's located in the middle of a town. Belongs to a larger district. It doesn't say whether it's rural or urban, but it's definitely in the center of town. It serves a diverse community. It's benefited from a very strong elementary school foundation of parents. They've been able to fund language, music, and arts program within the school. The school also serves as a central meeting place for the town, where it hosts the local spelling bee and other local events. Many of the teachers in the district have been there for some time and are very well established. People involved: Mr. Santos, the role that I'm assuming is principal. Mr. Barely is the incoming president of the school foundation, Harvard educated and very competitive. The board members of the foundation, although not explicitly mentioned, they play a role in the scenario just as well. And Mr. Morley, the board president at another school and classmate of Mr. Barely, not directly involved. The current situation: in an attempt to raise money for the Educational Foundation, Mr. Barely orchestrated a cash raffle. At the event in question, the local sheriff came in and arrested Mr. Barely and charged him with a misdemeanor. The current situation is a concern for the superintendent, parents of the school, principals, teachers, and community members who supported the school. Section 2, legal and ethical considerations. Mr. Barely did break the law. He was charged with a misdemeanor. The actions of Mr. Barely have caused duress for the foundation, principal, and superintendent, and other community members. They did break laws by hosting a raffle without a permit. Overall, Mr. Barely breached a social contract since he was placed in charge of the fundraising for the board as well. Kind of in looking at things as well, I do think probably some other people were involved in breaking some social contracts as well around the trust managing the funds. Summarization of the situation: in an effort to raise the most money for a fundraiser, Mr. Barely created and executed a raffle for cash to benefit the school. The issue is he unknowingly broke the law by creating a raffle for cash without necessary permits. The facts: Mr. Barely, a Harvard-educated male, member of fraternity at Harvard. His occupation is unknown as well as his ethnicity. He is competitive and desires to do well for his kids. His competitiveness is the reason he is in the linchpin. He's the linchpin in the crime taking place. Briardale Elementary, one of 6 elementary schools in large districts. Not clear about rural or urban, but it does serve a diverse population. The Briardale Educational Foundation, a group of parents on a board that have worked to fund arts, language, and music programs in the school. They are dedicated to the school and want the best for their children. Mr. Santos, that's me, principal at the elementary school and confident in his ability to run a school. It is unclear about his ethnicity or years of service to education. It appears there are some norms and mores around fundraising within the schools which have created artificial competition and real inequities within the community. This is something that I feel like is a little bit implied through the competition that's created. Section 5, information pertinent to the case. Anytime there is trouble with money, it impacts stakeholders and leaves many questioning. In this case, having a raffle which was not done within the law will make the participants wonder if the money raised will be able to be accessed at all. If the state board, it does state the Board of the Educational Foundation was engaged with the plan. However, it does not appear that the due diligence was done to ascertain if they needed a permit or follow local policy. I think this is important in so much as just having that check and balance system to have in helping set things like this up. There's no specific location given. I'd be curious to know more about the policy and laws governing raffles for nonprofit groups. If I assume this is done in the state of Kansas, there are some laws in and around raffles for cash for nonprofit groups. Is the group considered a 501c3? Because if it's not, then that would change what they can and can't do as far as raffles go as well. There are many aspects left unanswered which would prevent a solid direction being chosen. Some unknowns, like what happens to the money raised, what are the bylaws of the foundation to handle situations such as this, what, if any, onus is on the rest of the board as well. Some possible choices and outcomes. So choice 1, doing nothing. As a principal, I could just do nothing and let it ride out. Choice 2, complete changes to the board and leadership, return the money raised, pass on the costs to fund the programs to the parents through fees. I feel like this is probably the most liberal and just kind of all-encompassing, just iron-fisted sort of reaction to everything. Some additional things or additional steps that would be maybe intermediary: change the stipulations and process for raising funds, seek out grants to fund the programs, explore and implement other avenues for raising funds, issue public apology to the community, at least from the principal. Other possible changes that would require more information: dismantle the programs funded, like when did this happen in the school year? Can we just do away with this? Other things, for me as the principal, I would be concerned for my job, and the possibility of losing my job. Evaluating the options. So option 1, doing nothing. The news just might disappear. People will forgive and forget. They might get to keep the money. Cons: history repeats itself, so someone is inevitably going to repeat this. I could lose my job as principal. Parents will no longer donate and support schools. Students miss out on opportunities. Teachers also will lose faith in me as a leader and principal. Option 2, complete changes to board, return the money, charge parents for the programs and fees. Pros: I think demonstrates the ability to regain control as a principal, with just some all-encompassing changes. Teachers may restore some faith in the principal for the teachers. Programs will get funded, assuming that we pass on the costs. New leadership for the board. Some cons, though: parents become distant from the school support, so it may push some parents away. Passing on those fees would burden low-income families, and eventual erosion of the trust for raising funds. I think looking at the other options, like changing policy for fundraising, shows leadership and willingness to change. Issuing a public apology to the community could restore faith from Mr. Santos as a leader from both teachers and families. Exploring grants for funding allows the programs be sustained, open up the opportunity to fund new programs. The funding is also legal, which is one of the issues right now. Find additional funding raising opportunities, might engage other families in the process, and shows creativity. So looking at how else can we raise funds to fund these programs, short of auctions or raffles, things like that. Dismantling the programs: I don't think there's any positives with this. More of a method to restore Mr. Santos's authority, and also you just may never regain those programs. Mr. Santos loses or resigns his job, a possibility, but might reinforce how serious the allegations and crimes are when it comes to student money. I do think this is a real possibility from a principal. So let's make a choice. I think for me, the choices made should look to restore faith in the principal and the board. This being said, I would propose the following changes. Change the leaders on the board. They were all privy to the plans and did not raise any questions, so the checks and balances kind of went away. Issuing a public apology to the community. As a leader, it's necessary to acknowledge the shortcomings and work to overcome them. This is an opportunity to move forward and grow. And then seek other avenues of funding through grants. There are so many grants never accessed. We could support additional programs with funding. Other choices which I may not have control over is returning the money to those people who donated. It's hard to say if that would be something that we would be forced to do, or if that's a choice that we can even make. That would be something that either the bylaws or maybe the laws would step in and help us guide through. I could lose my job as the principal because I was privy to the plans just as much and never raised any questions or stopped it or sought to get any other clarity on what's to come. Implementation. When replacing the board, I would have to be prepared for no one to step up and may have to rebuild it from the ground up. Parental involvement might decrease at the school, which will also have to be rebuilt. Trust in me will be eroded. I will have to work with teachers and families to restore through transparency and communication. And then also promote the use of grants and other avenues to allow the school to focus on supporting each other and not raising money. Reflection. A principal once shared with me like mishandling of student money is the easiest way to get fired. I see this case as gross negligence involving all parties. And looking over the case, I kept recalling all the processes in my district has in place to help negate errors like this. As a leader, I would encourage teachers and parents to seek grants and other sustainable avenues to maintain programs such as the ones at Briardale. Thank you very much for a great year.